Hi, this is Ron Nutter, and welcome to another edition of Tech Bites with Ron Nutter. Like the title says, this time we're going to be talking about implementing Pi-Hole. You say you haven't heard about Pi-Hole? Trust me, you want to do some reading on it. As we get more and more things on our smart home networks, there's going to be ads coming in. And I have to be careful what I say about ads because some of the income I have comes from ads. But minimizing how much is coming through to the smart home devices is important. And especially if you don't have the fastest connections in the world, you need to get as much as you can for what you're wanting to do. So there is something called Pi-Hole. It initially started life, well, I first became aware of it as a Raspberry Pi project. And I'm going to show you tonight running on a regular Linux distribution. And for the purposes of our conversation, it's going to be running on Mint. And I've gone through several Linux distros, and I try to look at this from somebody who's never dealt with Linux before. And at this point, based on what I'm seeing, Mint is the one I think that's probably going to be the easiest for all concerned. So what it does is once you get this up and running, you will change your DNS resolvers on your internet router or whatever's providing your DHCP-based IP addresses and have it hand out the IP address of the Raspberry Pi or the Linux box or whatever you've got that's running Pi-Hole. Now, from there, you control what back-end DNS resolver it goes to. You can use Quad 9. You can use, you name the resolver, you can probably use it. And that's something that's going to be yet another video is doing some of the tweaks with Pi-Hole. And what it does is it builds a list. It references about 6 or 7 different lists out there of known ad sites that, let's face it, you may want to kind of think about not letting some of those on the network because especially if you've got a slower bandwidth connection in the days of dial-up, and if you're still on dial-up, trust me, I feel your pain. Getting all these ad connections, and I'll pick on USA Today, for example, because years ago I was setting up a site-to-site VPN connection and going to usatoday.com fired off no less than 16 connections going to other servers for ads and all sorts of other things. So this is where Pi-Hole comes in the mix, especially for devices that you don't want being exposed to that, and even for some of your other computers, especially if you've got kids at home, you need to take the extra precaution of keeping them safe. So enough of that said, let's go on over to the system I've got running Mint. And what I've got at this point is I've just got this running under VirtualBox. So we'll click on Terminal and don't let some of this concern you because Terminal basically is, think of it like the command prompt in DOS. And for those of you who have only seen Windows 98 and so on, this is back in the DOS days where you had just a prompt very much like this. So what we'll do, and you just get Linux up and running, and there's a whole nother video we're going to do on that. And I'm going to, excuse me, as I turn to the right here a little bit, or my left, or your left as the case may be, and we're going to type out the command curl space dash lowercase s, capital S, capital L. And it's very important that it's typed exactly like that. https://install.pi-hole.net. And then space, and then we hit the pipe character, which is over the backslash key on your keyboard, space bash. Don't worry about having to understand what all those commands are going to do because this is going to get the process started. And we will type in the password that it needs, and it's going to do a root user check, make sure what it needs to do. And okay, now it's going through and checking the disk space. It's getting whatever appropriate packages that it needs to get updated as a part of this. And see, it's pretty much a hands-off installation. So if you don't know anything about Linux, please do not let this scare you off because this is something that anybody can install. And especially if you've never dealt with Linux before. And really, there's going to be reasons that you want to become at least immediately familiar with Linux. So when we get to this point, we'll hit Enter. Okay, let's go Enter. because my cursor wasn't on that window, and so it just reminds you that you can donate, and this is definitely a good project worth doing so. Now, it says it needs a static IP address. It's going to pick up the DHCP address that right now this has been assigned, or you can edit it. So what we're going to do is we'll just click OK. And yes, you should have a static address on it. And I think the reason is fairly obvious, that you don't want this getting reassigned a new address, say when you put in a new internet router or your tables expire, whatever the reason. If you're not comfortable with plugging in an IP address into Linux, and trust me, it's very easy, and if you want to, I'll do a video on showing you how to do that. You can do a DHCP reservation on your router. Now, as you can see, there is a host of providers that we can deal with here, and you even custom, so you can define your own. But at this point, we'll go with Google because that's the first one on the list, and we'll press Tab and then Enter. Now, these are all the lists that it's going to look at to see if it's something it needs to block. So we'll just leave those. Those are all on by default, so my recommendation is just to leave them that way. So we'll hit Enter, and I'm going to leave IPv6 turned on. I've happened to have some equipment that uses IPv6, so for me, I'm going to leave it on. There's no harm if you don't leave it running or you do leave it running. So we'll hit Enter. Now, it's picking up the address that is currently assigned to it by my internet router. What I'm going to do, I'm going to say yes, because I'm going to put a reservation out on the router, and that's the easy way to handle it. So we'll hit Enter, and it's going to warn you about a possible IP conflict. Not likely to happen, because most good internet routers, when it goes to give out an address, it'll first ping to see if there's a device responding to that address. And that's basically how it's going to check to see if it's there. If it finds it, then it will go on to the next address. So what I'll do is just do a reservation. We'll get around that one. So we'll hit Enter, and just remind you about the IPv6 address. And don't let that whole string of letters and numbers concern you. And if you're interested in IPv6, I'm happy to do a video on that. It's not something that you may see right away, but potentially it will be coming someday. It's more on the back end between your internet router and the provider. Not all providers are doing it, but more moving towards that. So we'll hit Enter, and we'll leave the web interface enabled. Trust me, you want to. And we'll hit Enter. And of course, now here's the thing, that if you tell it you want the web interface, but you don't let it install the mini web server it's got to put on, then the web interface is not going to work. So really, that's something probably should just be, unless you've already got a web server running on here. That's the only reason I can see why. But anyway, we'll hit Tab to go to OK, hit Enter. Yes, we want it to log all queries. May not need that today, but that's something that you will want at some point in the future. We'll tell it just to show everything on the FTL log, and then we'll just go running right along. And you see, it takes it just a couple of minutes to get everything up and running. And I'm going to get my notepad over here so that I can get this in place, because I'm going to have to go change the password I've got written down, and you'll see why here in just a minute, because it's well, it needs to have a password, yes, and you'll see why once we get this up and running. Okay, so it's getting everything it needs. It's getting the updates to the scripts and to the lists it needs. And really, you see, this is pretty much hands-off, and I have not given this a lot of resources. I give it 8 megs of memory and a single CPU. So really, it's running very acceptably. Now, if you got a lot of devices on your network, you'll probably want to maybe give it a little more resources. Now, see, this is what we got to keep track of. This should be the address that your device is on, and I'll show you how to check it within Linux very quickly if you have any doubt. Now, the install log, it will be put right where it says to, but it doesn't give you that password where it says your admin web page login. So what I'm going to do is I've got a notepad over here set, so it's lowercase c, capital M, lowercase f, capital K, capital Z. Okay, let's go 8, and then AP. So make sure I got it written down right. Lowercase c, capital M, lowercase f, uppercase KZ 8 AP. Okay. Now, we'll hit OK, and we're dropped back. And see, it still gives you the password here. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Make sure you write this down because it is not kept in the logs. At least if it is, it's hidden in a place I don't see it. Now, this is the other command that you'll want to keep track of. And this is Pi-Hole, and I already see my notes are wrong. I'll have to fix that one. Pi-Hole -A space -B. This is so you can change that password. So that's something to have in the background. So what we're going to do, we're through now at this point with that side of it. So we're going to switch over here to a web browser. And of course, you can't see that. So we'll fix that quickly enough because I've got my view here limited to that. Now, there we go. Now we're cooking with gas. So we'll do HTTP 10.0.0.15 admin. And there it is, up and running. Now, you'll notice here on the left, you've got dashboard, login, and donate. Now, at this point with dashboard, this is all you're going to see without logging in. So we'll type login, and then this is where you've got to have that password written down. So lowercase c, capital M, lowercase f, K, Z, 8, lowercase AP. And if you want to, you can click remember me for 7 days. Now you see the whole thing, and I'll tell it to update the password. So this is the interface you get, and you will see right now, of course, we've just gotten installed. You're not going to see a lot on it. That will come over time as it is populating. So this is, experiment with this, learn with it. You'll be able to go into the settings. You can change your DNS resolvers. So this is something that will help kind of minimize the, well, for lack of a better phrase, the noise. Now, I do want to say one thing. As you're creating some of these accounts or keeping track of things, there is a link in the show notes, and I'm putting it up for you on the screen now. If you go to this address, you will be able to get a copy of my account creation checklist. And this is something I put in a book I released a couple of years ago called The Hackers Are Coming, How to Safely Surf the Internet. But I'm giving to this because this is something that's important to you. As you create more and more accounts on things, that's going to be something you definitely want to keep up with, because if you start losing some of these passwords, it then becomes rather ugly on keeping up with it. So that's all it takes to get Pi-Hole up and running. Now, I picked the Mint Linux distribution because, as you saw from the screen, well, you won't see it there. Let me shift over to that page. And, well, actually, we need to do here. Oh, I see what the problem is. Hang on, I got enough things running on the screen. I will go through and tell it to switch back to the virtual box. There. What I liked about the distribution is that what you see right here, it has the terminal window on the screen. Think of it like the DOS box or command prompt, whatever verbiage that you want to use for it. That's what's going to be able to get you to where you can do this installation. And I promised you earlier I was going to show you the command to be able to find out what your IP address is, and it's ifconfig. It's much like ipconfig in Windows, but it's ifconfig because it's Linux. So you can see right up there, that's the interface, that's the IP address. So it really, it can't be much easier than that. So think about getting Pi-Hole up and running your network. You can do it on a Raspberry Pi setup. It's perfectly suited for that. I was initially going to do it on a Raspberry Pi Zero W because it's really that lightweight that it can run on something like that, unless you've got a very large network. So, but it's totally up to you. I wanted to do it under VirtualBox so that you could see another way of getting this up and running. But again, it's very straightforward, and I think you've seen we literally walk through the steps on getting it up and running. Now, something else to make sure of as you're going through all this is you will see some videos posted up here shortly after this is finished getting up on YouTube, other YouTube videos that I've done on smart home process, because this is all one part of the process. And again, just want to help you do what I can to enjoy this as much as possible and avoid some of the hurdles. So thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and we'll see you in the next video.